What's going on, everybody? It's Aurora coming at you with a brand new video, and we just had some of the... I don't know exactly what the name is. I know it's like free something. It's basically the name that you use for pack filler, but you don't want to call it pack filler. I forgot what the name of the card type was. I asked Twitter for it, and did they get back to me yet? I need it for the title of the video. Nah, but I forgot what it was called. It's free something, but it's basically the ones that take up the pack filler or free space in the set, and we just got a bunch of them revealed for Cyberstorm access. I don't know if this is all of them, because as I was actually getting ready to record, the one that you currently see on screen actually ended up dropping, so that kind of surprised me, because there was a big gap between this one being revealed and the other ones being revealed. So I don't know if any more will be revealed either during the process of making this video or after the video goes up. I'm just doing what I have that I can work with. Plus, I kind of need a little bit of a medium sort of video because my bird up breakdown is getting a lot of positive reactions. So thank you so much, by the way. If you haven't watched it, it's actually a 2-hour breakdown of my favorite strategy being Tri-Brigade Lyrilusk. I'll put the link up in the annotation in the top right, but we just need something to balance it out with some normal content. But anyways, I don't want to waste any more of our time here. Starting off with, by the way, I have actually looked at these. It's more of a review rather than a reaction. But starting off with Wannabe. So Wannabe is a level 2 light insect. I know level 2, very scary there. But it has 0 attack and defense, and it says you can only use its name once, or effect name once per turn. You can only use Wannabe's effect once per turn. During the end phase, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, excavate cards from the top of your deck equal to the number of your opponent's unoccupied spell and trap zones, and if you do, you can set an excavated trap but send it to the graveyard during the next end phase. Also, place the rest of the bottom of the deck in any order. So funnily enough, this card seems a bit strange, but I think it actually has like some pretty interesting potential here, because keep in mind, a lot of trap decks would kill for an extra copy of Prosperity, because literally you can use Prosperity, and then this is just Prosperity during the end phase, but you don't have to banish anything from your extra deck. So I'm thinking it's a bit of a stretch, but a deck like Dinomorphia or something would really, really love this, because even if your opponent only has like 2 or 3 free spaces, that's a free pot of duality that has no real restriction. Yes, it sends the trap to the graveyard during the next end phase, but just use the trap. I mean, most traps can be used like immediately on that next turn. There's almost always going to be a window unless it's like a trap hole. Speaking of which, it is an insect. Trap trick synergy? That might be actually the intended goal here. But I think this card's probably one of my favorites out of the ones that have been revealed, and it was the most recent one revealed, so I'm glad I waited on the video to record it, because this getting revealed is actually pretty cool to me. I think this card actually has some application compared to some of the other ones we're about to look at. But next we have Pendulum Moon, and it asks where Pendulum Sun is. We're probably going to end up getting that out probably when I'm like recording the video. This is another one that I think actually has some potential. It is a light spellcaster Pendulum, scale 0. It is a level 1 with 200 attack and 700 defense, with the Pendulum effect saying that you can only use its name once per turn. During your main phase, you can add 1 face-up Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand, then destroy this card. And then in the monster effect says you can only use the monster effect of this card's name once per turn. And it says if you have 2 cards in your Pendulum zone, you can add up to 2 face-up Pendulum monsters from your extra deck to your hand, each with a level between exclusive the Pendulum scales of the cards in your Pendulum zone. Also, for the rest of this turn, unless you Pendulum summon after this effect resolves, you cannot activate monster effects, and the effects of any cards in your Pendulum zones are negated. So I think the Pendulum pile does indeed grow here. I think this card actually has some pretty great potential, because keep in mind, God, what card is it? Okay, I was thinking about Pendulum Sorcerer, but it's actually not the case. But other than Duelist Alliance, I think there is a Pendulum monster that searches Pendulum things, but I don't know. But even with Duelist Alliance, this card is a Pendulum monster in itself, so that means you can just easily search it from your deck. It is a scale 0, which is completely generic, actually. I think that's pretty wild, because I don't think we've seen too many generic scale 0s with actually good effects, or without some form of restriction. This being able to add back any Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand for basically free, because popping this isn't really that big of a deal, that's actually pretty crazy overall. I think it's really good for adding back, say, Pendulum Sorcerer. And then the monster effect is basically just like a really cool way to interact with Beyond the Pendulum, because Beyond the Pendulum has a very similar effect. So even if you don't go into Beyond the Pendulum, or if it's like a later turn, or maybe you got hit by like a Diablosis or some other way that ripped it from your extra, this is basically just a really good consistency card, because I think even without Electromite over here in the TCG, which this is even stronger over in the OCG because they actually have Electromite, but I think we do still have some pretty easy ways of placing things face up in our extra deck. I think there's a Sulfa Cord Link monster that ends up doing something like that, but just being able to add back 2 basically free face up Pendulum monsters from your extra deck is great, even with the restriction there, because if people can play Beyond, they're gonna play this without caring for the restriction at all. Plus it's a level 1, so you can summon it with like 1-for-1 or something, I don't know. But yeah, I think this is another card with a lot of potential. Also, speak of the devil, because like literally as I was recording this video, another card dropped, so this is actually more of a reaction. So we have Tauntaun. This is a quick play spell that says you can only use the second effect of this card's name once per turn. Target a face-up monster on the field. Its current attack, defense, and or level are higher than their original values. Or if it's a current attack, defense, and or level are higher than the original values, they become their respective original values, then pay life points in multiples of 100 to max 1,000. And during the main phase, if your life points are equal to your opponent's and this card is in your graveyard, you can set this card to your field. You know, this card sucks. I mean, there's a lot of cards that interact with things that don't have the same values or whatever. I'm pretty sure, like, I think Ragnazira or something like that, I don't know. And like none of those cards even see play, so this card is also terrible. Another card that I think actually has some playability is Ringoworm, the 100 Apple Dragon. I don't know, 100 Apple, whatever. It looks like, okay, there is an apple there. I thought there was like nothing to do with apples. But it is a light level 2 Dragon Tuner with 100 attack and 1100 defense. You can only use each effect of this card's name once per turn. If they are, say, face-up non-effect monster on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. And during the turn you synchro summoned a synchro monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard and special a 100 Apple token, which is a level 2 light worm with 100 attack and defense. And if this token is used as synchro material, it can be treated as a tuner. So I feel like this has a few applications, even ignoring, like, obviously, like, Sprite could do something with this, quote-unquote, with Elf or some shenanigans like that. I think it's really good. Also in Dragon Link, obviously, it is a dragon and a chaos typing. But I think it's really good in adventure decks because we've known a lot of adventure decks to like want to synchro spam. That's like one of their main goals. So being able to special summon this for free while having the adventure token on board is pretty damn nice. And then not to mention getting another token that can also be treated as a tuner, basically replacing itself for free because this is also a tuner, but it's not a mandatory tuner, meaning that you can actually do some more applications with it in case you need to climb into something like Baron, even Psychic End Punisher is something that I think is still really good. I think this card also has some serious potential, even if it's just going to be like a one-of. Next up, we have Yukai Nareno Kitsunebi Aurora. I probably butchered the fuck out of that. But it is a fire warrior with, it's a level 3 with 200 attack and 1900 defense, and you can only use the second effect of its name once per turn. All face-up monsters on the field become fire, and if this card is in your graveyard and your opponent has a fire monster on the field or in their graveyard, you can special summon this card. I mean, this might have been good in, like, Infernoble mirror matches back in, like, 2020, but I feel like this card is just kind of not it. Was it 2020 or was it 2021? I forgot where an Infernoble Dragon Link Dino format was. Next up, we have Harvest Angel of Doom. So there's another Pendulum monster, specifically a Dark Fairy level 4 with 1800 attack and 1000 defense, with the Pendulum effect saying you can only use this effect once per turn. During your main phase, you can destroy this card, and if you do, add a Black Horn of Heaven from your deck to your hand. And then the monster effect says you can only use each effect of this card's name once per turn. If this card is normal or Pendulum summoned, you can add a Horn of Heaven from your deck to your hand, and if this card is tributed, you can place it in your Pendulum zone. So if it wasn't obvious enough, this is like clearly for the Counter Fairy deck, which hasn't seen support in ages to my knowledge, but it's actually really cool to see it actually get something, even if it is some of the most boring fucking gameplay you'll ever see in your life. But I'm pretty sure there's a counterpart to an existing one that searches White Horn of Heaven, or whatever it is Grand Horn of Heaven. I thought we had a White Horn of Heaven. But being able to add Black Horn and the regular Horn of Heaven is pretty neat. And then obviously Horn of Heaven does tribute, so you can basically Pendulum or normal summon this, add the Horn of Heaven, set it, use it to tribute this, and then place this in your Pendulum zone so you can add the Black Horn on a later turn. Will this be any, like, good? I don't know. I feel like they'd rather just use Bountiful Artemis Turbo, like Heat Soul, but I don't know. So a really interesting one is Sakitama. That's a really cute artwork there, by the way. but this is a Light Fairy Spirit, level 4 with 400 attack and 900 defense. It cannot be special summoned, and you can only use the first and third effects of this card's name each once per turn. You can reveal this card in your hand and immediately normal summon a spirit from your hand. Once per turn during the end phase, you bounce it because it's a spirit, and if this card is tributed, you can target a spirit monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So if you didn't know, there's actually support for the Tama cards, being Aratama and Nikitama, for the spirit, not really archetypes. I mean, spirit might as well be an archetype. There's only like one playable fucking deck other than Shino Birds. But basically, it revolves around like this spirit beatdown sort of strategy. I forgot what you're supposed to like tribute summon or something. But I remember Dazif specifically, I think, took it to a regional and topped or won or something with it, which was like really funny because I just remember that explicitly. But other than that, like in general, this is a really good spirit card. I mean, revealing it in your hand to immediately normal summon a spirit for free, including itself if you really need the body, and then also just getting a free spirit from your grave by tributing it, which I'm pretty sure you're supposed to use these to tribute summon big spirits anyway. I think that's pretty neat, even if spirit is still kind of terrible even with this. I feel like it definitely gives those hardcore spirit players a boost for their deck. And given that organization has not posted anything since the rest of this video, the final one on this video is going to be Full Active Duprex. It is a Wind Cybers level 9 with 2800 attack and 1000 defense. Unfortunately, it is not dinosaur support, but it says you can only use the first and third effect of this card's name each once per turn. It says you can banish 2 linked monsters from your graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. Your linked monsters can make up to 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase, and if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Cybers you control and it gains 1000 attack. So I don't think this card's very good, honestly. I mean, the summoning condition is probably the best part about it. The second effect is a bit too niche. Everything about this card in general just, it feels like one of those old school Cybers cards that they brought out when Link Summoning was like first out. Like back when people would make like, oh, here's my Cybers deck, because there was no Cybers archetype. So it was literally just all of these sort of generic Link spammy things so you can make like Decode Talker pass. Like it just feels like another one of those cards. And I mean, I guess it is a pack filler card, but I mean, compared to all of these, you know, at least most of these have some sort of playability. This card is just kind of eh. But with that out of the way, that looks like it's going to do it for the video. Twitter still has not come through and told me what the name of the cards are. This is going to make me have to change the title from what I wanted it to be, but whatever. I'm going to just show Wannabe because I think Wannabe is probably like my favorite card out of all of these. But what do I think about these overall? I feel like a lot of them have some interesting applications. Again, Wannabe specifically seems like it could be pretty good in a very hardcore trap deck. Even something like Trap Tricks, which it was clearly made for by being an insect. Even though honestly, I prefer to just use it in like Dinomorphia and spam the fusion traps. But then there's other ones like, I mean, Tauntaun is terrible. This card is basically useless. I mean, this card's actually fine. But like, and then this card is like so dated. I mean, I feel like most of these are fine, but then some of them are just kind of eh. Do I think any of them will see play in general? I mean, obviously for like the dedicated players, I feel like this card will definitely see play in the big Pendulum Magician piles. I feel like this could definitely see some play. And then this if you're playing Counter Fairies, and this if you're playing Spirits, but both of those decks are incredibly niche. And then again, Wannabe and Trap-based decks, but other than that, I don't know. Definitely not the bad ones, but I feel like these cards overall are fine. They're not the worst pack filler we've ever gotten, but they're definitely not up there with like certain other cards. But I don't know, that's just my opinion. Let me know yours down in the comments below, because that's going to do it for the video. If you liked it, please be sure to leave a like, as I'll split this video and the channel into YouTube recommended. And if you like this content and you will see more like it, like the rest of my reviews, then perhaps consider subscribing, because it supports the channel more than anything else, and it's absolutely free. Also, if you haven't already, please be sure to check out my in-depth bird up breakdown. It shows an entire deck profile, explanations of ratios. You know, I got 10 plus combos. I got like pros, cons, alternatives, everything like that. Definitely be sure to check it out, please. I worked really hard on it, and I would love to see it get a lot of love. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.